So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to install the Azure CLI, which already is installed in this machine, but the documentation here talks about how one can install the Azure CLI on Windows. So you just simply need to download, install, or install it. You can either run it from the bash, which is Ubuntu on Windows, the Linux subsystem, or from PowerShell. So let's run it from PowerShell. So let me put the Windows PowerShell on top. And here, if you see that, I can simply type AZ and all the AZ module shows up, which means now I have got Azure CLI installed in my machine. So what you can do, now I can connect to the Azure subscription which I have got access to. And to do that, what you can do is simply you type a AZ login, and then this will take you to a browser where it will ask you to enter your credential, and once you are successfully entered the credential, you will be able to log into the Azure subscription you have access to, and this will show you all the subscriptions you have access for that same username and password. Now once I have got access to the Azure subscription, I'll be able to now create the resources within that. To begin with, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a resource group. I'll say AZ group create, and I will choose a location, let's say East US, and give a name at, let's say, RG AKS3, and this will take few minutes to create a resource group and give me the input. So the resource group creation is faster, and you can see that resource group is created, just a blank resource group. Now inside that resource group, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a Azure container registry. That's my private container registry where I'll be putting the Docker container which I'm going to create in my local machine over there. So let's create that. So I'll say AZACR, that's Azure Container Registry, and then I will say create and give the resource group G as in group. You can also say dash dash resource group, so it's a shorter form of that, and then provide the resource group you have created just before. 3, and then give a name to this container, so you can either say dash dash name or dash n, that's a shorter form, and I just gave a name called WGACR2, just ACR3. There's a similarity between the resource group name and the registry name, just for the naming convention perspective. We just kept all of them with the same number. And then you just need one more parameter called scoop, and I would choose basic, which is a cheaper one. So let's go ahead and then begin with that. I need to put double dash, so let's put that way, double dash, and it will just go ahead and create the ACR for us. Now while it is getting created, it's created already. When it is created, what we can now do is we can now open the Visual Studio 2019, which I have already installed in my local machine, and create a new project. And when I say that create a new project, let me choose ASP.NET Web Application, and I just give a name called Web3. Okay, same as the resource group number 3, and then I say create. Once I go ahead and create, it will then ask me few things. Okay, it'll download few templates, configure everything, what kind of application I'm going to create, and what is the runtime I'm going to select. So I'll select .NET Core, which can run both on Linux and on Windows, and if in .NET Core, what is the version I'm going to select. So I'll select the latest one and choose the API, and I say create. This is going to create the template of my application, which is gonna go ahead and then load in my screen, you can see, and I can just run it in the local IIS. Or what I can also do is that I can add a Docker file. So by adding that, it will ask me whether I need a Linux-based container or Windows-based container. Just go for Linux-based container, and then once I say OK for that container, this is going to create the file. Now once this is ready, what I can do, I can just say release, and then it is gonna download few of the things you can see from the Docker hub and then create things for me. While it is getting done, so the progress would tell me about it. It is finished now. Now what I can do, I can run this and clear this up and then run Docker images. This will tell me all the images I have right now at this point in time, and you can see the Web3 image is there, and it is just created 16 seconds ago, which means it's just now created by the Visual Studio. So I have got the image ready for me, and I can also test that in the same Docker which is running on my local machine, which is Docker for Windows. So let me run this application from Visual Studio, and then once I run this, a browser will open up with the URL for the values controller, which is the default controller for this template I have selected. Now this will open a browser for me automatically. I don't have to do anything else. Just sit back and relax, and then you can see this browser has got the values 1 and values 2 coming from the container inside a Docker I have in my Windows. So let us just close this, and then I will also open the Azure portal, and once I open the Azure portal, I'll be able to see the newly created resource group, that is RGAKS3. So if I go to the resource group section, you will see that resource group created already for me, and inside that resource group you will find the ACR. Now once this ACR is available, it's right now blank. I haven't done anything, so you can see that I've got 10 GB of space, nothing has been used so far, and no additional storage is available for me, so good to go. Now once this Docker image sort of kind of ready, and this ACR, by the way, gives me the login server as this. So WGACR3 Azure cr.io. What I need to do, I need to put the image over here. So let us do that from the Docker. So let me create a copy of it. Docker tag of web3 of latest version to the one which is my Azure container registry slash web3 colon, let's say v1. I name it as version 1 in my Azure registry. So once this is done, I can now log into the ACR. Now imagine that you not always will have the similar capability of having the registry always in the same Azure subscription or in the same context. However, you can have any private registry. In that case, Docker allows you to log into that private registry using the Docker login prompt, and then you can log in and then push the image. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to use my Azure context, which I have already logged into this same PowerShell window, and using that context, I'm going to log into the ACR. I say log in, and the name is WGACR3. Okay, then once this login is successful, it will be in this context and available for me for an hour. So for an hour, this will not complain. So this will just work as if I have logged into this, and then I will be able to now push the Docker image. So I will say Docker push, and then I copy this part. That is what I'm gonna push cr3 dot azure cr.io slash web3, and then I say v1. This is gonna get pushed to the ACR I have created. And you can see that it has created multiple segments of it, multiple layers of the container image, and one of them is quite big. It's 150 MB almost, and this will go ahead and then push all of the values in Azure. Now, while this is happening, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to open another window, that is the CLI, the Windows subsystem, Linux subsystem on Windows, and then I just do the same thing, AZ login, so that I have parallel windows. So let me run them side by side, or I run it on top, and I just keep this thing. So it's just started another screen for login, and while it is just doing that, let me put it in the bottom so that I'll be able to see what's happening around over here. Okay, let's don't disturb the view. Yeah, it's almost kind of done. So let me just log in, and I can close the browser, go back to that, and this will just wait for me to finish. You can see that out of there's some portion of it already done. So while this other bash window is kind of logging into the system, we can observe how far we are. It's almost there. Yeah, so I'll just clear the window and keep it over here. Now, two things I have done. I have created ACR in Azure. I have pushed my image over there, which is working fine locally for me. Now, the second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and then enable this ACR for username password authentication. To do that, I can actually enable the admin user, and this will have username of this and a password. So let us just copy paste it, the username and the password, and then I just say password and leave it somewhere safe. And I go to the resource group, and I see the AKS3 is sort of like ready for me, and I go back to the bash window. Now this bash window, I'll do the same thing. What I'm going to do, I'm going to create an AKS, and to do that I need to know what all AKS versions are available in the East US region. And to do that, I can say AKS get versions in the location East US, and this will give me a list of AKS versions available, and the latest one which it supports is 1.14. There's a spelling mistake. Yep, and then it will be 1.14 point something. That's something I need to know because I need to specify the number. Okay, it supports up to 1.13.5, and then if I go ahead and use the AZAKS create, I need to provide the group name AKS3, and then the name of the AKS cluster, let's put it that way, AKS3. Okay, and then the location will be picked up from the group, that's fine, and then say uh, Kubernetes dash version is 1.13.5. Okay, and then I will say generate SSH key. Should be fine. If everything is fine, it should just work fine. Now just wait for the uh, no error message to come, and then it will take few minutes while I will pause for a while when it gets created and come back to the screen once this AKS cluster is created. Now you can see that cluster creation process is kicked off, which means if I now go back to my Azure portal and then see the cluster is kind of initiated, and this will create a automatically generated resource group under name called MC underscore ARGAKS3. So let's just refresh. Yeah, you can see that MC underscore RGAKS3, and this will create all the virtual machines, network, storage, disks, etc. you need for this AKS cluster to run. So this gonna take some minutes, and while this is gonna take some minutes, I'm gonna pause this execution and come back. Now we're back. So this is created. You can see that provisioning succeeded to the resource group this, which means if I now come back to the Azure portal and refresh the resource group I am in, I'll be able to see all the virtual machines, the network, the disk, and everything part of the same cluster, which will basically host the Kubernetes engine. That's fine. Now, few things I need to do to run and access Kubernetes from my local machine. Let's run it from here. So if I now come back and say AZ AKS, so I can also run it from here as well. So let's just run it from here. Is AKS. Group is RGAKS3, and the name of the cluster is WGAKS3. It's easy for me to remember. And then I say that get credentials. This will download the credential and put it in the local context so that I will be able to log into this AKS cluster without really providing any credential or SSH keys. So let's just wait for this amendment to happen. And when this happens, I will be able to use the kubectl. I'll say yes. Yes. Yep. And then I will just say kubectl get nodes. So there should be 3 nodes running. Yep, everything's fine, looking fine. I can see that age is 5 minutes 18 seconds. Identifies that it just got created a few minutes back, so which is quite okay. And then you can see the version, it's running 1.13.5. That's perfectly fine. Now what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to open the AKS dashboard, the Kubernetes dashboard from AKS. So to do that, I'll say AKS browse. Okay, and then I'll say group RGAKS3 name WGAKS3. Right, if I do these two things, it should open a proxy and then open it in my local browser, the Kubernetes dashboard. I can see that it is getting in the current context, and it will open a proxy and automatically open the browser in my local browser. So with the same HTTP address 127.0.1 and the port 8001. So if it's not opening, that's fine. We can just copy it and paste it over here and just open it in a separate. And this shows some error, and I was expecting. And if you read the error, it says that couple of the roles I need to enable in the Kubernetes using kubectl. And to do that, I've got a cheat sheet which basically does the same thing. So using the kubectl, I can enable few roles. So it basically enables the cluster role binding role, and then cluster admin role to few of the specific accounts. So let's copy this and go back to this context and close this browser thing and then open it. And I just am gonna now be able to see it. Once this is done, what I can do, I can just run the browser again so that I can see the dashboard. Let's copy the URL so that once this browser proxy is kind of running, I can start another instance of the browser and then open it up. Let's just, yep. You can see that my Kubernetes cluster is up and running. One small last thing I need to do to be able to push the code or the Docker from my registry to this Kubernetes is that need to build a trust between this Kubernetes and the ACR. Remember that though they are in the same context, but I haven't used my admin privilege to create any one of them. So I will be able to merge them by creating RBAC handshake, or the same service account which is used in the AKS have the same service account, the same privilege or admin privilege in ACR, so that I'll be able to authenticate both using the same service principal. Or else I can use the username and password of the ACR and then just create a secret in my Kubernetes. And to create the secret in Kubernetes, what you can do, you can just, I just can do it from here. So is the AKS get credentials, and then I say GRGAKS3 and WGAKS3 should get me the credentials, and then I should be able to log in from here. Yeah. And then what I can do, I can run a small thing. So while you read this, you can see that I'm using kubectl to create a secret called Docker registry secret, and I give a name of the secret. So let's just give a name called WJCR secret, and Docker server is WJCR azure.cr.io, and the username is WGACR, which you can find in the ACR portal. And then whatever the password, randomly generated password is, and some email address you can provide. Just a random email address is fine. No need to provide the same email address associated with the Azure thing, right? So this is a secret which I'm going to create. Once this secret is created, right, you'll be able to see in that secret displayed in the Kubernetes dashboard. So if I go back to now Kubernetes dashboard, inside the secret you don't see that, but if I just go ahead and refresh it, you should be able to see it in the dashboard as WGSS secret. Everything is fine. Now I'm going to deploy the ACR thing into this. Let me just copy and create a deployment. I can also run the YML file from the command prompt using kubectl, but we have an option to use it in the dashboard. So gives us bit of readability also. So you can see that WGACR, that's my registry path, the image and the version I've created. Remember that I created v1, and then I'm using the secret for the authentication purpose, and it uses port 80 to open up as a service. So it will be an HTTP application. So if everything is fine, I upload it and it kickstart. Now you can see that in my Kubernetes dashboard, things are happening. Now I can just keep refreshing the window and it will tell you the progress. And the progress says that so there's some um, authentication issue. So let us just try to see what is wrong over here. Okay, so let's just go back to the um, resource group and find the resource group. Go to this ACR and see if we still have that thing available. WGACR3. Let's just make sure that we copy the right thing in the right way and then paste it over here. WGACR secret, 3 secret. Okay, and in the looks fine. Web3 WGACR. So we need to just make sure that everything is fine. So just to make sure that we copied the right setup password, and let us just to try to regenerate that. Now we go back to the thing and clear the secret, delete the secret. Okay, and then go to the window and see the see here we had some additional H over here, and that created the problem. So it did not really type the right password. So let's try doing that. This time it should work. And if I just go ahead and run the code, this will create the secret. Let us just copy the content again, paste it over here and enter. And once the secret is created, that is fine. What I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna go ahead and delete the deployment. By deleting the deployment, I'm kind of clearing up the previous one. I can also change in the YML file and do that, but deleting the deployment would clear up things. And I also need to clear this service separately. Otherwise, I need to create a separate service. Now, everything looks fine. My Kubernetes dashboard is kind of empty, and I go ahead and then say create and use the same YAML file over here to create the service. Now this initiated, and unlike the last time when it threw an error for authentication, it should now have some green boxes. Now we don't have any problem yet, which is good news. And when we keep refreshing, you can see that green thing comes up. Now after some time, you'll find this sample thing. So let me just increase the size of the window. The sample kube app will have some external endpoint through which you will be able to browse the application publicly. Right now it shows the internal IP address, but that is not something which you can use from outside. So we have to wait the IP address allocation to happen, and once this is done, you just need to simply type the IP address slash API slash values, and the same browser window will come up with two values in a JSON array format. Just wait one more moment. Generally doesn't take a very long time. Now after some time, when you come back and then things are kind of done, what you can see is that you can just type the URL in your browser slash API slash values, and then it will show you the same page earlier it was showing for you from the local Docker window. And that's it from my perspective, how you can think of creating an ASP.NET core application, put it in the local Docker, create a container file, and then push the container to ACR after creating the ACR in Azure, and then create a new AKS and then read the ACR from your AKS through YAML file, and then voila, your application is ready. Hope you enjoy. Thanks a lot.